All right, everybody, we're here in Columbus, Ohio with Anthony Oliveira from Westside. He's also the guy behind, the coach behind Trigger Warning Conjugate. Anthony, thanks for coming on today, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. We really wanted to get him on to get, a different perspective because he's a gear lifter, but conjugate and for raw lifters as well. So what's your best total since you've been in powerlifting?
Right now, best total is 23.55 at 242.
23.55.
So it's like not. I basically have I got a big squat and a decent deadlift, and then my bench I struggle with, but it's coming along.
Yeah. Good.
So,
and you've been training at Westside for how long?
September will be 2 years.
2 years at Westside.
So yeah.
I actually followed you when you got invited. That was
the coolest thing that ever happened to me in my life.
yeah, man. I remember.
Seriously.
I remember seeing that on. I talked to you a couple times. I don't know if you remember. Since
Yeah.
a million fucking DMs a day. But I remember talking to you prior to that when you were. Cause didn't you? You had like a torn meniscus or something in your knee.
Yeah. So I tore a lateral meniscus, and then I thought it was my powerlifting career is fucking over because I had never had an injury like that with powerlifting. I had with hockey. I've torn my hip flexors and shit, but I tore my meniscus. I don't know, now it's probably 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, something like that.
I know it wasn't long before you got the invite.
It was
right.
Yeah, it was probably 6 months before.
Yeah.
Yeah, 6 to 8 months.
So you mentioned you mentioned playing hockey. So what kind of got you into powerlifting? Where did you come from?
Short version.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Short version.
Yeah, short version. Short version is just I played hockey my whole life, and then we always kind of trained and went to played in college, played juniors, and then just I got involved with drugs and stuff, and then I was a junkie for a minute and got clean and just kind of that cliche story.
Yeah. I feel like that's how
I'm very open about that. Yeah. I don't give a shit if people judge me for that, then fuck them. But
yeah, seriously, man.
And that's where it led back to the gym, and then the gym led to let's see how strong I can get or how big I can get.
I
was 147 pounds.
Oh, okay.
So I was let's see how strong I can get, how big I can. And then it kind of went towards powerlifting instead of the physique stuff, just because it made more sense to me.
Yeah. I feel like that's how a lot of people the sports end, and then still want to compete, want to find something to
something
keep you
finite,
exactly.
Where it's I know it's not subjective. It's I know that I lifted more weight than you did, and vice versa. So it's something I'm very tunnel vision. You know what I mean? I'm all right. I just have to 5 more pounds. There's always 5 more pounds, and just that sort of helped with the progression of my personal lifting, because it's always just I better be getting better today.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
I think that's one thing that Louis talks about. I know you obviously lift under Louis, and he likes powerlifting. He's so drawn to it because he's a numbers guy.
Yeah.
That's what's more simple about powerlifting, because it's cut and dry.
Yeah.
You go to a meet and squat 1,000, he squats 900. You're stronger than him.
Right. Yeah.
Baseball, football. There's a lot of variables, a lot of stuff that goes into it.
People want to turn powerlifting into variables, but
it's not.
Last I fucking checked, man, it's about who lifted the most weight.
You're
you know
right.
what I mean? So
as the rules have never changed, right?
Yeah, it's who lifts the most weight, and it's if people want to, the whole raw versus gear thing.
Yeah.
I know you guys said you kind of want to touch on that. It's hey man, all I know is that when I look at my niece and I say, I squatted this much, she's not going to look at me and be like, well, did you have elevated shoes on? Did you walk it out? Did you fucking walk it out?
What kind of interbriefs did you have?
They're never going to ask. No one's ever going to give a shit. Lou said that to me the first time.
They don't even understand the difference.
Right. The first time I ever went into Lou's office, the first time I ever met him, he said, I had just bombed out of a meet. I had cut to 198, believe it or not. And I bombed out. It was my last raw meet. And he just looked at me. He was like, why'd you cut? And I was like, I wanted to do this at 198. And he's like, listen, no one's ever going to ask you what you weigh. They're going to ask what you lifted.
Yep.
That's true.
Yeah.
So after that, it's I like to stay inside of my weight class. But
yeah. So going from that, the raw versus gear stuff, what do you feel, you train at Westside, there's so much, seems like hate and controversy through Westside. Why do you think that is? Is it because of Louis? It's because of everyone that's always lifted there, and you guys have always had the records in gear lifting? Or
well, it's I think the attitude confuses people a little bit. I think that I can want to murder someone in the gym with the training, but also be friends with them outside of the gym. I think that fucks with people, and I think that also like they don't understand conjugate, and like conjugate didn't come from Westside, but Westside basically like brought it, to the public, and what Louis done with putting stuff together, and conjugate as a whole, like with Shane and Laura and what everything they're doing, and then of course like with social media and everything, it's kind of come to the forefront now. It's really funny. Because I can tell you, like I can't tell you what the raw guys run for programming, but they can all tell you what I do. So what does that fucking tell you about, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't know why people hate it, but they hate it, but they can tell, like those guys can tell you what kind of underwear I wear under my briefs.
They hate it, but they still follow it. Right?
So like it is what it is, you know what I mean? And as far as I'm concerned, like those dudes will eventually. They'll start transitioning because you see kids. All of a sudden, you see kids that hate on conjugate, and all of a sudden their elbows are hurting them, and because of the straight bar work, their hips are hurting them because they never box squat. You know what I mean? Then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh shit, I stalled." Well, I'm gonna go from sleeves to knee wraps, like Dave Tate talks about, and then they're like, "Oh shit, I stalled." Well, I'm gonna throw on a slingshot. Oh, I'll try the single ply bench shirt. Then all of a sudden they're a gear whore and they're like, what happened? Yeah. You know what I mean?
Where am I?
So I'm just in it, dude. Give me as many layers as you fucking
Yeah, people love it seems like in powerlifting, with it growing in social media presence, people love to just do what's popular. Yeah. Like RP, stuff like that. Like, and I think RP can have its place
if you
in
really
certain
know
stuff.
What you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I think it's something that people beat the shit out of and do it the wrong way. But
yeah, 100%.
but beside the point, people just love to do what's popular.
Yeah.
They're gonna see the first big popular guy they see on Instagram, and it might not be the right person, and that's the first person they see powerlifting, so that's what they follow.
Well, yeah, that's sort of like something I actually, when you guys asked me to come on, something I wanted to touch on is like the social media thing. I think it's hilarious to me because every day you see people hate on social media. Yeah, I fucking love social. Dude, that's how I pay my bills. That's how I fucking got in contact with Louis. Like that has grown the sport. Yeah. So people who bitch about the social media, like if you hate it so much, delete your account, man.
That's
like stop posting on it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So like if you don't like it, then leave. And it's the same thing with the general culture in powerlifting. I think that there's like this trend right now where people are like, oh, what's happened to powerlifting? And it's like, nothing, motherfucker. Like
we're growing.
If you don't like it, then leave and no one's going to miss you. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I don't know why, I've always wondered about this. I'm really happy you brought that up, actually, because, I've never realized understood why powerlifting wants to push stuff away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like CrossFit, CrossFit put a lot of money into powerlifting.
Of course.
Through Reebok and shit.
Yeah.
But you go online and you see a kid with a 405 deadlift saying, oh, CrossFit's for pussies. Yeah. Well, my cousin owns a CrossFit gym and he can pull 500 cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, dude, all they're doing is contributing to getting money into the sport. Why do we want to push that away?
You can learn from all aspects of it, I think. I think you just gotta be careful who you're fucking listening to.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So there's just be careful. What have they done? Who have they coached?
Yeah.
That sort of deal. And I think that you could learn, I think that powerlifters can learn something from CrossFit athletes as far as GPP is concerned. I think that CrossFit athletes can learn something from powerlifters as far as absolute strength is concerned. And there's you can mix those things. I think that you have to look at the fucking source. So who are you listening to? You know what I mean? Let's say what are you, the sum of the 5 people you hang out with the most, right?
Yeah.
So your lifting is going to reflect the sum of the 5 people you listen to the most. And if those people are schmucks on the internet that are do nothing,
you're going to be a schmuck.
Then you're going to be a fucking schmuck. You know what I'm saying? I always looked, when I got into the sport, when I was like, this is what I'm doing, I was like, who's the best?
Yeah.
I want to learn from the fucking best.
Yeah.
I want to look at the guys who might not have been the most genetically predisposed for strength, but they're the dudes that have done the most. You look at Louis. Louis not built for strength. He don't have good leverages, but he fucking made it work. Yeah. You look at Dave Tate. You look at these guys, and you can learn from those guys. And you look at a guy like Jason Coker, who's got the leverages to be the best bencher ever. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. The guy's incredible, but he can't pull 700. But he's made it work with some big totals. Yeah, so you learn from a guy like that how he's done that.
Absolutely.
You know
how to put it together.
If you look at who you're fucking learning from, instead of who has the most followers, I think that's a big thing. Because the only thing that has more bullshit in the culture than powerlifting or strength sports is is politics.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
You're right.
Because it's like I hate to like pump my own tires or whatever, but I know what I'm talking about when it comes. I think and I try and learn more every day, right?
Yeah.
I scrape by to as far as money is concerned, and then you look around and you see motherfuckers who haven't done anything, and they're making hand over fist.
Yeah.
Good for them. Make your money.
Yeah. Sure.
But I'm gonna expose you.
Yeah.
For what it is, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's the thing about this. That's the thing about the sport, man. Bullshit don't stay.
Yeah.
No, yeah, like you'll see people fall off and everything else, and that's cool. But like, I think that training's getting smarter. I think that the general public, I think that people are starting to like move in the direction of like they want to learn from better people, and I think that social media helps push a lot of bullshit, but I think it also helps push stuff like this, like what you guys are doing, where it's like, okay, like this isn't the biggest podcast going, but someone will be able to go onto your channel and watch interviews with 10 dudes, and some of them might be not great, some of them might be great, but there's at least a list of people that they
and they're all going to be people.
There's information they can grab.
This guy I like, so I'm going to go here.
Yeah.
This, you know what I mean, and that sort of thing. So I think that that's important with the social media stuff. Because
It's
I'm just sick of fucking hearing that shit. As far as I'm concerned,
it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, of course.
You got to know what to siphon through.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
with the younger lifters, it's like I just want to try and push people in the right direction.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
You mentioned the social media thing, and you mentioned your business is kind of through social media. So I wanted to ask you a little bit, like, how did you get into coaching? If I'm not mistaken, you coached before you came to Westside, right?
Sure. Yeah. So like I interned at a gym, Brian Silfi's. He owns this place called 1-to-1 Fitness in Concord, New Hampshire, and I interned there, and like 6 weeks into a 10-week internship, he offered me a job. So then I worked there for like a year or so. I moved to another gym, just like some shit happened or whatever. Nothing bad or anything like that, but I moved to another gym in Dover, New Hampshire, and I coach people there. I've been coaching people since I was 14 years old because I was a hockey coach forever.
Oh, okay.
So I coached people at a high level of athletics for a long time.
You know how to communicate.
Yeah, and it's just sort of like a transfer of what I'm coaching.
And for people that are listening, yes, you train in gear, but you just said what, about 70% of your lifters are raw?
I would say 70% of them are raw.
And they all train conjugate?
They all train conjugate.
And they're all getting stronger?
And they're all getting stronger. Imagine.
That's a fucking weird. Well,
it's crazy.
Back to what you said about when we were talking about CrossFit a little bit. You said absolute strength.
Sure.
So my cousin owns a CrossFit gym in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
And I introduced him to conjugate, and everyone kind of was like, tried to push that away because you're lifting heavy weights and stuff. And now he's the best CrossFitter in the area.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because absolute strength is what those guys are missing, and they don't understand. Like he squats 500 or whatever, but that makes that WOD where they're doing 135 pounds that much easier. Because, like, you know what I mean? It's common sense. And everyone that I've introduced conjugate to for CrossFit and all the programming that I handle now, they're so far ahead of
everybody that I've trained that has used conjugate has saw nothing but good.
And if you look at some of the best guys in CrossFit, they've reached out to Louis.
Yeah, of course.
They've reached out to Louis.
If you look at like any CrossFit athlete that's come out of Westside or come out of that area, or what Shane and Laura do at the sweatshop,
I've learned a lot from Laura.
Incredible athletes, and it's all conjugate. Like the system, the big mistake that people make is when they try and compartmentalize conjugate into these different things. So it's like conjugate for raw, conjugate for intermediate, conjugate for this. It's like I don't need to read a PDF file on conjugate for intermediate because conjugate is conjugated for what you need. So like with my lifters that I train, or I don't like saying like my lifters, but with the people that I coach, the only thing we really change for them is like I make them pause their max effort benches. Mm-hmm. If you're a super high level lifter, I think that you can get away with not pausing your benches and then go into a meet and pause them. But you have to be a very high level lifter and understand that you'll probably get more in the gym with a touch and go and recognize the difference. But for most people, I'll have them pause their benches. I have them pause their first rep of speed work if they're doing triples. And then also I have them do like a little more volume instead of direct speed upper. So I'll have them do like 5x5s or 6x stuff Louis talked about that we.
So
it's weird, man, because my raw bench has gone up almost 80 pounds since I came to Westside.
Yeah.
So that's proof is in the pudding.
Yeah, but you guys are weak with
You know what I'm saying? Like it's like my raw stuff has gone up. So and the same thing with my lifters. And then I have them free squat. We don't only go to boxes. They always go to a box on speed work, but their max effort work. I have them free squat probably every 3 to 4 weeks, and then within the 3 weeks that they're doing box squats for max efforts, I'll have them do some sort of free squat as an accessory movement. So I might have them do like a narrow stance, safety squat bar, like free squat. So it's not going to beat the shit out of their shoulders, but they still get that the neural feedback of not having a box there.
Yeah.
And then I have my gear lifters do the same sort of deal because most of the gear guys that I work with aren't proficient enough in the equipment to only box squat and then free squat out of me. So they need the practice where it's like that specificity term that like,
Buzzword.
Certain people like to fucking throw around.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be this big thing. It's like, okay, man, like you're not going to forget how to squat. We'll just throw in some like a 5x3 on your heavy day as a second a secondary movement, and we're good. You're still within the realm. That's not what we do at Westside, but it's still conjugate.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
That's
saying?
what I'm about to say. Like, so what you basically just said for everyone that's listening is you take conjugate, which is a method, and apply it to whatever specific training you're doing.
It's an umbrella.
It's not conjugate for raw. It's not, you know what I mean? You can apply conjugate to anything. You can apply it to CrossFit, hockey, baseball.
All of those things.
You just have to be able to be smart enough to realize how to apply conjugate.
A great example, and I'll give a buddy of mine a shout out here, Brian Hill. I don't know if you guys follow him. So he's like one of the most technically immaculate.
His squats are ridiculous.
Yeah, he's one of the most technically immaculate geared powerlifters right now.
Mm-hmm.
He's a good friend of mine. Fuck you, Brian, because he outsquats me by like 7 accidentally like 7 pounding me. But anyway, so if you watch him, he trains conjugate, and you won't see him go into a box.
Yeah.
Because he knows that there's no carryover for him, and he knows that. But I wouldn't say he's conjugate for North Carolina geared lifter.
Yeah, he's conjugate.
Like he's taking what he knows and he applies it to his stuff.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a really good example for people to look at and be like, well, that's what he does and it works for him. So Lou says it takes about 9 months for people to catch on.
That's
when we're inside of Westside, right?
Yeah.
I think you're already dealing with a pretty high level lifter at that point.
Yeah.
By the time you're in there.
About the high.
So like we're pretty high level guys. Or most of the guys in there are. Like I don't put myself in a high level category because I haven't really done that much shit. But as far as other people are concerned, I think that like within a year, 2 years, you start figuring out what exactly you need to do. Because I can write a basic template for both of you guys that's conjugate. Yeah. And you're both gonna get strong as shit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
100%. Pretty intermediate lifters.
Yeah.
But you might find that dumbbell rollbacks hurt your elbows.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't hurt yours. So if I program a tricep extension, you might do yours with a football bar, you might do yours with little things like that, and just being aware of your shit and knowing what works for you, writing everything down. Write all your shit down, like write everything down.
That's one of the biggest things.
That's a big piece of advice for anyone listening. Listen to that again.
That's one of the biggest things I've preached.
That's what I like used to get chewed out by him when I first started powerlifting. Like, write it down.
Buy a fucking notebook.
I put it on my phone, and he fucking.
Well, like it's like
as long as you have it recorded.
Having like something like if I don't fly off the handle that often with the people that I coach, but a way to get me to fly off the handle is for them to be doing a max effort movement and me to say, "What's your record on this?"
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know.
Well,
I can't fucking help you, man.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like
You don't know if you're PRing. You don't know anything.
And it's just fucking cool to look back and see. In 2010, I squatted 405, and I just took 605.
Hell yeah,
You know what I mean?
dude. It feels badass, you know.
To rewind a little bit, conjugate, like you said, it takes you 2 years to figure it out. 3 years.
Yeah.
It's not a program. If anyone that's looking for an instant gratification program, you got to go somewhere else and go somewhere where you squat 7 days a week.
Well, it's a long game.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned,
That's the whole game of powerlifting.
Yeah, it's a long game. It's who can last. If I put 50 pounds on my total every year for 10 years, right? That's what is that? 500 pounds on my total, right? And it takes me 10 years. It takes me 10 years to do it. And you put 200 pounds on your total this year, then get hurt and never powerlift again. who's
Who
going to
wins?
be remembered?
You win.
This motherfucker. You know what I'm saying?
No, you're right.
So with the conjugated training, I think a big part of it that people miss is I think they look at the stuff that we might do and they think of it as dangerous or whatever because they'll see these crazy setups and they'll think this crazy stuff, but it's like, no, it's actually safer because I know that if you've got, like, you're never going to get weaker if you train under me because if you break your arm, we're still good.
Yeah.
We can
We'll
still
figure it
train.
out.
Yeah.
We can train around anything. So that makes it, to me, that makes it safer because you can work around anything. So little nagging injuries, you still have to train. Like you never have to take 2 months off from benching because we just go, oh, okay, well, your elbow's hurt. We'll go to a 2-board and we'll use a football bar or a fat bar or whatever. We can get around it, or we can do a fucking dumbbell workout.
Yeah.
And it's still under the umbrella of conjugate because you're just using a variation.
Yeah.
So it's all within.
And you guys are strengthening your injuries too. Like you're not just ignoring if you're short. Like I'm sure if you're weak at the top of your bench, Louis telling you to hammer your triceps, right? Or you're telling your lifters, people you're training, to hammer their triceps.
Yeah.
You guys attack weaknesses, and that's one thing I think that's really important with conjugate understanding too.
Yeah, and I think that people are kind of scared of that humbling experience where it's like
you're gonna do everything you saw.
it's that humbling experience where it's like, hey man, when I first showed up at Westside, I could barely do good mornings with 2 plates.
Yeah.
And Lou walks up to me and he goes, "It's remarkable how weak you are. It's remarkable that you squat 9 right now and you can't do a good morning with fucking 2 plates. It's hard for you." So we push that up. I'll do good morning with 4 plates for reps now, no problem.
Yeah.
And look at my squats got up 170 pounds.
Crazy.
So it's like you just
crazy how that works.
It's
but that's what's cool about it. Like you do something and it might hurt your ego or whatever, but then you know I need to hammer that. Like I took 525 in a meet raw, and then I did like a 405 or 415 box when I got pinned by it.
Sure.
And I'm like, and I was wide stance. So I'm like, okay, well, what's weak? Hips, right?
Hips, right? Yeah, of course.
So that's what's so cool about it.
It's direct carryover. Like the only thing that gets lost in translation for that, I think, is people will say well, I did 425 plus bands to a 2-board. What's that mean? Nothing. It means you did 425 plus bands to a 2-board.
Yeah.
That's all it fucking means. Doesn't matter how. Doesn't matter. As long as you set it up the exact same way next time.
Yeah.
Then you can try and
then you can measure what you've done.
And there's something that's finite about saying there's 5 pounds on top of that I've added. So
for raw lifting, how many variations for max effort work, like for upper and lower, would you run until you cycle back, or would it not matter? Would it depend on the person?
Honestly, we don't cycle back for a really long time.
Really?
We don't go back. So basically how I set it up is, so there's no meet prep. We're always in meet prep, right? Conjugate, you're just fucking strong. The only time you're not in meet prep is the first 5 weeks after a meet. Because basically, you're always up above 90%, and then you circumax, so you go up above 100, and then you kind of dip down, and then it's the 21-day delayed transformation. You come back peak, you hit your meet or whatever, your 100%, 110%, and then it kind of comes down a little bit, so you take a couple weeks to ramp back up. Yeah. And that's how you do that. So we're always up here. But what I have done with my lifters is I've set up an 8-week prep. Where so it's got the Circumax worked into it the last 3 weeks. But those weeks leading up to that have an opener for all the lifts.
Okay.
And then it also has the deadlift opener is kind of mixed into the Circumax phase, but then it has the same max efforts. So they know, right? So we won't touch those max efforts until they're in that 8 week. So every time you're going into your last 8 weeks before a meet, you've got shit that you haven't done in 6 months or however long it's been. So you can go in there and you can smash 8 consecutive fucking PRs.
And that's a confidence booster.
And it's all up here. And what I tell them, I said, you're going to have a lot more. So take your 5-pound PR. If it's smoke, then go up another 10 pounds and shut it down.
Yeah.
No 50-pound PRs.
Yeah.
Just save it for the meet, because something I've learned myself the hard way, and I try and have my lifters learn from my mistakes, is that you want to leave something in the tank.
Absolutely.
At a meet, you want to leave it in the tank. You want to go make it easy, because that means, so let's say you want to squat 600 pounds. You go to a meet, you've squatted 630 in the gym or something. Squat 600 pounds at the meet. Squat that 600. Know that you had 20, 30 pounds in the tank. So that means that your next training cycle, if you have a shit training cycle, you know you can at least squat 605 or whatever.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes
so
sense.
You always have that little bit more. And then, but if you have a fucking hammer dropper of a cycle going into the next one, you'll feel like you can squat 660, hit 630, and then everything's easy going in. The only one that I really let my lifters, hang their nuts out on a little bit is like a third deadlift. Like you already got your total.
Yeah.
Like if you want to, that's
what I'm
about. You know what I mean?
Actually,
You might pull it, you might not. If not, like if you know it's not there, don't put something stupid on the bar.
Yeah. That's.
I'm sort of like known for saying like I'm out, like take my 2 attempts. I'll pass on the third.
So for raw, and without giving out too much of your programming, you know what I mean? So you would do like an 8-week template and then do your circuit max? Or is the circuit max 8 weeks?
It's into it. So it's going to last like 3 weeks. I guess 4 weeks including the deload. So you have like 4 weeks of like of max efforts that you know you're going to get. So that's 4 weeks plus your circuit max.
Okay.
Plus a lot of my guys, instead of doing like, the way Louis programs is a 2-inch block pull for your opener. Some of my guys, I'll have them pull off the floor if they're a little more novice, and some of my guys, if I know that they can recover and they don't have a hard time with fatigue, I'll let them pull a max on that 2-inch block instead of just an opener.
Yeah.
Some of them don't need to; they know what they're going to open with. So if they want to pull like a 10-pound PR, see what their hands can hold, see how they're doing, whatever. But that's a hard max to pull because you just did circuit max 3 days before. So that's mixed into the 8-week cycle.
See, that's an interesting thing too, because if you take the approach like you just said, leave a little bit of the tank in the tank at the meet.
Yeah.
You should know what your opener is going to be.
Yeah.
You have an idea.
You can
squat 630, you squat 600 in a meet, you say, okay, I can confidently open up with 605.
Yeah.
Barring an injury, I've never understood that. Like how people don't have an idea of where their opener is at.
Yeah, like you should kind of know. Some of the stuff so that's where it can get a little goofy with the conjugate stuff, right? With how I run it, I try and like breed confidence into my lifters. Like, dude, like if you're always hitting 5-pound PRs, you shouldn't be worried about shit. Yeah. So when they take their openers in the gym, I kind of give them like the choice if they want to or not. Most of them want to, and it's something that they can take for. If it's a new lift or something, they can take for a couple doubles and feel good about it and bury them and not worry about it. Or like a bench, like something that they could take, maybe if they were hungover a little bit or whatever.
Long pause,
you know what I mean? Long pause. So something that they can feel confident in because you want your openers to be basically a last warm-up as far as I'm concerned. You want your openers to be something that you're like, whack, and you're like, I feel good. Yep. Take a 5-pound PR on a second and then, go for your total or whatever on the third.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's all about smart about the numbers, man.
Yeah. That's one thing I've never understood is people opening, like especially in raw lifting, too heavy. Because I feel like in multi-ply you have to there's
a certain amount that you can't fuck around with.
You can't open with 600, right? Like, you're not even gonna hit that.
Yeah.
But like I just go to these raw meets and I just see kids getting fucking blasted.
Yeah.
Like there's one story and like obviously I'm never gonna mention name. I don't even know the kid's name.
No.
But huge confidence booster for me was my first ever meet. I was like a 165 or something, and I was warming up with a kid in the warm up room, and it was his second to last warm up, and he got fucking buried.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm smoking these warm ups. I'm good.
I feel good.
I'm good.
It's all about like that's why I tell my lifters too coming off of like a deload. I'm like. You're going to feel like shit in the warm-up room until you get about halfway through your warm-ups. Yeah. And then you're going to settle into the idea, and you're going to be fine. It's all about like breeding, like confidence. There's a fine line, right? Like between like the cocky and confident.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like to step under weights, I don't give a fuck if you're a 90-pound lifter and you're stepping under a 200-pound squat, or if you're a super heavyweight and you're stepping under 1,200 pounds. You kind of have to be sort of cocky. To be like, I'm a human being stepping under this. You have to have that. But there's also like, you got to pull back a little bit and be like, okay, like realistically, confidently, what can I do safely so that I have another fucking meet?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I can get to my bench,
you gotta know your body.
Deadlift or whatever it is,
You gotta know your body. So that stuff. Like, and with your circuit max, do you do a lot of bands for raw lifters? Like, I'm not saying we utilize bands for conjugate.
Sure.
But we don't go into like the quadded purples or you know what I mean.
You want me to get a little sciencey?
Yeah, sure.
Oh yeah. Sure.
So like speed work without bands isn't speed work. It's cat work, and that. So basically, what happens is when let's say you're doing speed bench, if there's no band on it,
you slow it down.
You have to slow it down yourself, right? So I see a lot of people doing speed pulls. Oh, I did speed pulls with 405. No, you didn't. You did a bunch of singles fast with 405. It's not dynamic effort though.
No.
So I use bands with my people or chains. It depends on the person. A lot of times I'll use chains for people who might be a little newer that need a little more like rep work.
Yeah. Okay.
And it just helps them. The chain's a little more like real weight feeling.
Yeah,
and it helps because like you know like but as far as like Circumax,
you don't get that overspeed eccentric and all that.
Yeah. So it's like a little more of just like a low gear. If you're going against chains, it's like that. You know what I mean? It's like every
you have
you know the feeling.
So with a band, it's gonna get exponentially heavier as it goes.
Yes.
Like from here to here isn't gonna be as big of a jump as from here to here. You know what I'm saying? Because it gets heavier exponentially.
So
whereas as
it's
chains,
it's not.
As far as like
it's going up.
Chains, it's like it physically gets like 1 pound heavier.
So what you're saying is, not to cut you off, Craig, but your body is going to naturally go slow. It's going to slow down.
Yeah, otherwise the bar will come out of your hands.
So that's why you utilize bands.
Bands and chains.
Bands and
the other thing too is that like people will say like, oh well, it's not building the bottom of the bench. Let's say or with the bench or with well. I mean, you might not build a shit ton of bottom of the bench with that movement, but you're going to when you do 4 sets of 25 with dumbbells after. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like you're gonna build the shit out of it when you do a bunch of upper back work and you do your secondary workouts where you crush your upper back and all of a sudden your range of motion on your bench is an inch shorter. So anybody who's saying that like using bands and chains is stupid for raw lifters just isn't paying attention. Like. You got to think about it, man. The only time you miss a bench off your chest is when you made a stupid jump.
That's fair.
That's just when you made a stupid jump, dude. Everybody else.
So most of them at the meet, it's everyone's right here.
Here to here. You know what I'm saying? And what's going to help you build that? Fucking bands get to where you have to press through it.
Yeah.
So and I gotta say I'd say like 50% of what's coming out of my mouth is straight out of Louis. So I don't want to be like copyright. You know what I'm saying? I don't
think Louis is gonna watch this video.
I'm like. Trying to convey what I've learned through my experiences.
That's why we want to have you on, because you've learned from who we consider the best, the best of the best. He's the samurai, the last samurai.
Exactly.
Like we talked about.
He's the fucking dude.
And so you've had the opportunity, and you've lifted with the best too, right?
Yeah, I mean, that last meet, I warmed up with Dave for all, Hoff is the dude. Like, people, to get a little bit off track here, like, people with Dave, like, they want to hate on that dude, and I'll tell you what, man, that is one strong motherfucker. Like, I don't care, in gear, out of gear. You can talk about him squatting high. You can talk about soft lock. You can talk about whatever the fuck you want. When it comes down to it, that's a bad motherfucker. Like, let me tell you something.
He's taking gear off. He's going to be stronger.
What did he squat in his last meet that was controversial?
It was like 12. I think he did 12:23, and a couple people gave him shit. Like,
the man put on 12:23 on his back.
Dude, as far as I was standing right there. I'll say if a squat's high, that squat was right in there, man. Like, it looked like every other multi-ply squat. So there's like, certain gyms that want to post passive-aggressive shit on Instagram, on their stories, and they want to hide behind the internet, and they'll never show up to a meet because they know we'll bulldog them out of a meet. They just want to run their mouths on the fucking internet about it. Let me tell you something about Dave. I see people say, oh yeah, he had a pretty good day. Pretty good day, man. I was with him in the warm-up room. So that dude took, including his squats on the platform, he took 4 squats over a G. Right, including his warm-up. So 4 squats over a G, right? 3 of which were over 11. So put that in your fucking pipe. And then with his bench, he took 4 over 700, 3 of which being over 800.
Yeah.
Right, and then his pulls, he took 3 over 7, 2 of which being over 8. So
just the amount of volume that guy's
in one day, and let me tell you something, I was in my hotel room and showering at 3:30 in the afternoon. This was not a long meet. This was like time.
Like this dude,
it was an APF meet. Like, we were going, everything was time. Mm-hmm. So like, people need to recognize, like, when you sit there and watch, I think the only people that'll hate on Dave are people who have not seen him lift in real life. Because when you see the dude move weight, how fast, like, watch him in the warm-up before he puts a shirt on and he takes 4 plates and literally it's like, whack, whack, and you're like, holy shit. Like, this dude is so strong. So, people who hate on Dave, come and watch him train or come and watch him at a meet because it's literally. And I've thought this way for a long time before I was out here. The dude's incredible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
people think that Westside isn't strong raw, but I've actually seen you guys doing a lot of raw training recently.
Yeah.
Like a lot of you guys aren't always straps up.
Here's the thing, man. People will see Westside, take your squats, your bench, and your shirts, your briefs, or whatever it might be. But if you understand conjugate training, you're building most of your lifts out of your assistance work, and I ain't never seen anybody do tricep rollbacks in a fucking bench shirt.
Yeah.
Right?
80% of our stuff is assistance work,
and so 80% of it's raw.
Yeah, and then
even if you don't do it.
And then as far as getting in a bench shirt, man, wearing a bench shirt maybe once every 6 weeks. Other than that,
see, people don't get that, and that's the one thing. Like you talk about people talking shit on Westside or talking shit on gear lifting. In my opinion, people are gonna disagree with me, and I don't really fucking care. Gear lifting to raw lifting, especially with certain federations and their standards now, and I'm speaking specifically about raw lifting, it's basically a different fucking sport.
Yeah, it definitely is, and I think that
you can't judge gear lifting by raw lifting standards.
No,
it's not the same fucking
thing. It's a different thing, but also if you take some of those raw squats that people think are so buried and you actually look at them, they're in the same spot. They're just bent over more.
Yeah,
that's just all it is.
And they're just able to bend over.
Yeah, they just bend over. They just bent a little.
You guys, your equipment's forcing you. People don't understand.
Straight up and down, your hip crease is very exposed.
Yes.
So when you're straight up and down,
if you try to squat straight up and down, it's gonna be a lot harder to get fucking depth or parallel.
Also, dude, last time I checked, fucking NFL doesn't have referees sitting on the internet watching the game on a computer. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Like you gotta be right there. Yeah. So, but I mean, like the work that gets put in raw is just as important as the work in the gear. It's just more technical in the gear, a little bit more. But we go in, like we were talking before, like I do 3 extra workouts. So anything you do outside of the gym, stretching, bands, rehab work, that's all considered a workout. So if I take all of that into effect, I'm probably doing 12 workouts a week. But I'm at the gym and I do my 4 regular workouts and then at least 2, sometimes 3 secondary workouts as well. So like all these other people that can say that we don't train, the raw isn't strong and all this stuff, like we train. I mean, all those extra workouts are raw. Yeah. And we do, you know what I'm saying?
Again, you're not fucking
dragging sleds, pushing wheelbarrows and all that shit,
And to get off the bash, I don't want to be hung up on it too long, but I will say one thing, and I told you before we got on camera that like Louis sent our powerlifting team in college a ton of free shit. And anyone that talks shit on Westside, if you take a minute and reach out to Louis or any of these guys like Anthony, you're gonna learn and you're gonna get stronger because
100%.
They're bad motherfuckers in the gym, but these guys are willing to help anyone.
I think that's a very important part of the sport. I think that like I wouldn't be where I'm at without people giving me advice. I think that it's one of the few sports where like you can reach out to the top level guys.
Yeah, they'll respond.
And if they're not a piece of shit, most of them are gonna. You know what I'm saying? Most of the guys are gonna. Help
I reached out to you through fucking Instagram.
Yeah, and that's just how it goes. Like you want to give back to the sport that sort of. That you got something from.
Yeah.
So, like, I try and give back. There's a fine line between getting taken advantage of, and because this is how I pay my bills.
Yeah.
But also, like, hey, man, if someone's got a question, I look at videos all the time. People send me videos all the time. And they're like, hey, man, like, what do you think of this? And I'll look at it and I'll tell them, and then that's it. And it's sort of no skin off my back 5 minutes of my day.
Yeah.
But I had that same thing go on where it's like, when I showed up to Westside, I'd never been there before. Right, and the first time I got in canvas was in that fucking building. I still have the video, and I've got first guy pull 900 sumo standing behind me. I've got 2,200 plus pound totals on the side of me. Like I've got, you know what I'm saying? Like there's Tom Berry was there, like calling my depth, wrapping my knees, and these are dudes who are in the middle of training, and they come over to the girls' side of the gym to spot me in canvas, and I'm nobody.
Yeah.
So something I took away from that was that like, hey man, like. You got to give back, and if someone's willing to learn, you give it to them for free for the most part. You know what I'm saying? And these guys are the baddest motherfuckers on the planet, and they're helping this I was a 198-pound kid that didn't know his ass from the hole in the ground.
Yeah.
And they came over and helped me when they didn't have to. It was like Tom was just like spotters, and dude just came over and helped. And it was cool as fuck. You know what I'm saying? So
absolutely.
I think that's something that's missing from the sport. As far as like. That's a one gripe that I'll have is that people turn their nose up at helping people who aren't as strong as them. And that's just something that I've noticed myself. I've seen people do. But when it comes down to it, the really, really strong guys will tell you they'll help you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The guys who have been around for a while, they'll help you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you just gotta reach out to them.
Absolutely, and that's what people don't understand. Like,
Yeah.
like think about it, like you said, this is like the only sport that you can reach out. Like imagine me reaching out to like Le'Veon Bell from the Steelers.
Yeah, it's not
And
gonna
yeah, exactly.
It's not gonna
But
happen.
that's like what you guys from Westside and some other Raw guys are, and they message us right back.
Yeah, it's a
cool sport.
Yeah, it's very cool to be able to get in contact with those dudes and like on the flip side of things, like I said it before, like be careful who you message.
Exactly.
These dudes are full of shit.
Yeah. you gotta be able to
like decipher.
Yeah,
I think what you guys
exactly.
are doing here is a good thing, and I think that
We appreciate
pushing information out, like especially like conjugate style stuff, I think is really important to push out harder now because there is going to be a transition.
It already started.
You know what I'm
You
saying?
see
Like,
it starting
it's happening,
now.
like, and it's going, and you want to get people who know how to get people stronger and who have gotten strong this way to give to those people and sort of show them the way because you can read Book of Methods and you can go on there and do it, but like to have somebody to talk to and
Sit
all
down
that
and talk.
is very helpful.
It's different. It's
very helpful.
Like,
One thing I do want to touch on. I don't want to keep it very long.
Sure.
But we talked before we were on camera. We were talking about programs versus methods.
Sure.
We were talking about conjugate is method, and there's programs and
Yeah.
methods. So I would like if you just want to touch on that a little bit.
So I think that like you'll get, and I'm not gonna drop names as far as like the people that do this shit, but you'll have the this method, whatever it is.
Everybody has method now.
It's this method and
Yeah.
whatever, and they have their 23-page PDF file that they give out to people or whatever, and that's fine. And everybody's got to make their money and whatever, and claim that they came up with something. But conjugate is a fucking it's a method, right? It's not a program. So if you can't take your method and change it to help someone get better at T-ball, it's not a method. It's a fucking program. So like, yeah, there's programming involved in conjugated training and the conjugate method and everything else, but it is not, it is like, when people call something that's a program, it drives me fucking crazy. Because if all it applies to is powerlifting, it's not a method. You know what I mean? It's a program. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's just a misleading name.
That is what is so hard for people to wrap their heads around conjugate, because they see different conjugate guys doing different stuff. Like, well, why is he doing 6x6 on a speed day, but he's doing 10 doubles?
Right. Yeah.
Because it's a method, and there's different ways to apply
for
it.
different times.
Exactly.
And that's why, people will say that like they read Book of Methods, well, that's not what it said in Book of Methods, and that's what, and it's like, well, Book of Methods is 20 years old, and everything in there is true, but it's evolved.
Yeah.
So what that says there might not be what we do in the gym now, and it sort of changes because you figure shit out, man. It's always evolving. Everything. Louis always
testing you guys, right? Like,
yeah,
you guys
we're the lab rats.
Yeah, exactly.
We're the lab rats, but that's part of the thing. You know, we try and you've got to be willing to do something for 6 weeks, and you might fall on your ass. Yeah. But it's all
that's the learning
progressing.
process.
Yeah.
That's a part of getting better as a powerlifter or an athlete or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Conjugate's a funny thing because I know we talked a little bit. We went to a seminar. Josh and I. That was in like 2016 or 2017. I can't remember. But
the Westside seminar.
Yeah, we went to a seminar and conjugate's obviously so prominent in powerlifting. And I got my master's degree in exercise science, so I had learned a little bit about it from that side of things. And it has a reputation that precedes it.
Yeah.
In a way, right? Everybody thinks like they see geared lifters.
It's all gear and drugs.
It's all for gear and drugs, man. But what was funny, and we had talked about this after we left the seminar. When we went to the seminar, everything was asked backward from what we had been told that conjugate was, as far as, Tom and Jason talked about athletes. They talked about just training in general for general population.
Yeah.
People that just want to get in the gym and get better. It's not just for geared lifters. As you mentioned before, it's a method that you can apply to geared lifting. You apply to fucking T-ball.
Yeah. Dave Tate just had that post the other day. It's like, if it doesn't work for a raw lifter, it's like, why don't you look around? It's like, how has conjugated training popularity gone up, but the amount of geared lifting has kind of gone down? Yeah. So how is that possible if it doesn't work for raw guys? Like, of course it fucking works for raw guys.
Yeah.
Of course it fucking works for raw guys. Like, and
it's a method, and it can work if it's applied correctly.
Yeah, obviously, like, I'm a diehard. You know what I mean? This is just, I live and breathe it. it's all over my fucking t-shirts and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like I live and breathe conjugate. The day you see me doing like starting strength bar shit, like something weird happened. So I'm a true believer into it. I think it can be bastardized quite a bit.
Yeah. And it's easy to hate what's been proven as the best, right? Like that's how people are going to. They're not going to aim at the shitty programs because they're not going to get any views or any
right.
notoriety.
Well, it's a buzzword.
Exactly.
So they say the Westside conjugate and all that stuff. And honestly, man, like to sort of wrap it up, man, I love it, man. Like that's what my shit. Like stay hated, man. Like fucking bring it, dude. Like I like when people don't like what I'm about. Like it's fine. Like more for me. You know, if you don't want to, if you don't want to like it, then that's just like less people getting strong and less people that have to compete. Like, you know what I'm saying?
You love it, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I like it, and so just do whatever the fuck you like. And I found it to be very successful for me and the people that I coach.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
and people that I respect. So that's why I'm just like, I mean, there's no other way. The best part about it is it will be evolving. So it's not going to stay the same.
Yeah.
So like you're not going to get sick of it. So it's always like if you were to find like, oh, this speed work's not working for me, fucking change it to what it is.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
Conjugate.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
So
the information's out there.
Yeah. So where can people find you at for training and for? If you guys see the shirts that Gray and I are wearing, these are both trigger warning shirts.
So the Instagram is like trigger_warning_conjugate. If you look up the hashtag stay hated, a bunch of it comes up.
We'll tag all of it down below.
It's gonna be all on the bio.
We'll put it in the video as well.
TWCstayhated.com, and then my personal Instagram is just Anthony CW 13. And if anybody has any questions or anything like that, don't be shy. Like just slide into the DMs and like
That's what we did.
That's literally.
We learned so much today just in 2 hours of being with this guy.
I'm very, very available. So like if people, I'll do like just programming where I email it to you, and then also I do programming and video review, and then I'm working on like a mass gain cycle, which is sort of like outside the realm of what I usually do, but I think a lot of the conjugate principles can be applied to that sort of thing to thicken somebody up. And then I also do a 6-week preparatory phase.
I mean, you're a thick bastard, so
I try my best, but we also do a preparatory phase. That if somebody wants to get into lifting, they're not quite ready for everything that comes with a full-blown conjugated system, is sort of a preparatory phase where it builds them up to be ready for that.
That's
with
interesting.
GPP and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so
that's
from like very
awesome.
beginner all the way up to somebody who wants to put 50 pounds on a total that's already badass. Like I got you covered. So.
Oh yeah, man.
Well, if you're listening to this video, we'll put everything for Anthony down. This is definitely a guy you need to follow his stuff.
For sure.
Very knowledgeable guy, and he trains under the best strength coach ever. So best powerlifting coach ever. So thank you so much for being on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah.
All right.